Oh, good morning. Good morning. I'm just going to get going. Good morning, Jew. You've unmuted. You okay?
Sorry,
You are
I
very welcome.
accidentally started it.
Don't matter. Where are you? Morning. You okay?
Yeah,
Good. You okay, Tony? Oh, I can't hear him. Anyway, good morning, James. Morning, Matt. Morning, Jew. Morning, Tony. Morning, world. Morning, Facebook. Morning, LinkedIn. Morning, X. There we go. I was calling it the wrong thing. And morning, YouTube. Yeah, good morning, everybody. And we will just get going in a minute. We are live on everywhere in the entire universe. Even though I'll be honest, I wasn't sure that I was going to be live. I'm just going to change my glasses because I've got the screen and it's much easier to read when I have my glasses on that have the blue tint. Good morning, Andrew. How lovely to see you all. Right, well, what are we doing today? Well, we are in Belonging in Business and we're talking about the power of listening. And actually, listening something that I was trained to do. Sounds a bit cray-cray, but as a disabled human, I became a psychotherapist, and the reason that I became a psychotherapist is because I really needed listening to. That's the truth. And most people, good morning, everybody, and most people who think about listening, I'm not sure whether we truly think about listening. I'll tell you what I mean by that. When I first started to train as a therapist, and I began at level 2, so everyone can go and do a level 2 free in the UK. Morning, Alexia. Everyone. Hey, Mary, lovely to see you. Everyone in the UK can go and do a free level 2 course, and level 2 is just before a GCSE. And you can go and do, morning, Belly, you can go and do a level 2 in counselling. And the level 2 in counselling basically is getting together with some other bods in a college, usually a further education college, sometimes a village hall. I've certainly run degree level courses in village halls and care facilities. We ran the University of the Wolds when I became a lecturer much later in my journey, and I took the University of the Wolds, the UFA, the University Foundation Award, 120 credits at level 4, so double the level 2, right, into care homes, pubs, and village halls. And why did I do that? Well, I was listening. I was listening to the fact that many people at that time didn't feel they had access to higher education being university. Most people, including some of the people that come into this room, and oh, there we are, they're already in this room, never knew that university was an option for them. In fact, when they were at school, because of the fact that they had a learning difference, they truly believed that school wasn't for them, and certainly not university, although secretly, for many, 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 many years, I'm not saying that they're older, but they are. They're older than me, and I'm fairly advanced in years. They were praying about learning. In fact, they dreamt about learning. In fact, they imagined a massive library in the universe, a glass library. You might know about it, but I think they'll tell you later. Full of all the information ever. Because, you know, those records are available to us if only you know where to look. Oh, and if you listen. So this morning we're going to talk about listening. And I listened to what people needed way back when, in the 90s. Ooh, seems like a long time ago now. And the noughties. I always like saying that because it makes me feel naughty. I know it's spelt differently, but you know, I'm dyslexic. I'm allowed to think that the same word's spelt the same way. Different words are spelt the same way. And I really listened to what people were saying, which was, we want to go there too, but it's a bit scary and we haven't got the qualifications and we don't have GCSEs or GCEs. So unless you've got O levels and A levels, you're not allowed to go to university. Well, it's not true. That's just not true. It's not true. And it hasn't been true since the 70s. since the University of the Air, the Open University, began. And then everybody copied. Really, everybody copied. Now we have access to higher education in further education colleges, and I've been training in Cardiff Metropolitan University, which if you translate it and you really listen, it says Cardiff Further Education College. In fact, Cardiff Metropolitan used to be an art college. In fact, it began in a library, in a room, with a group of people that were artists. So from little beginnings, small acorns, great oak trees are grown. So I listened back in the 80s to people about what they wanted and where they felt stuck and how they felt that things were just not available to them, they just were not included. So we opened up spaces and places like the Open University of the Air, the Radio University, the one that you could listen to, the one you could do by correspondence school way back when. And we opened up spaces for people to come and listen and to be heard. And when they came, they said, these newfangled computers, I just want to get a grip of them. And my oldest client, my oldest student, was Auntie Eileen, and I'm sure she won't mind me talking about her. She was part of a family in a small village near Scarborough, and I had 4 generations in that class. I had Auntie Eileen, I had her son, I had his wife, and I had the 2 grandchildren. And everybody called her Auntie Eileen. And the children were over 18 and they were planning on going to university, but they didn't have those A levels that we were talking about. So they came and did the University Foundation Award in the village hall with me on a Thursday. And in fact, my current finance manager, Fran, who may come later, she came to that. In fact, I kind of forced her, really. I said to her, look, mate, you might be working in the council, but one day you won't be. One day the council won't want you anymore, and in fact you might want to move from debt recovery. You might want something more interesting instead, but the thing you're going to have to know is how to use a computer. And she was a little bit kicky and screamy about it, but I said, come on, I need the numbers. Every time a student comes, I get paid, and I need classes of 12, and if I haven't got 12 people in the class, I can't run the class, so come on, help me. And I took a suite of laptops. They were heavy at the time. In fact, I've just packed my new work laptop. I start a new placement on Monday. I've just packed my work laptop, and it's quite heavy, in quite a heavy bag, one of those really thick briefcasey laptopy bags, and it's quite heavy. And I've just packed it ready for Monday, and it reminded me of the 12 bags I used to pack. The 12 laptop bags with a printer, which I networked because they had to all be plugged in. We didn't have Wi-Fi then, and there certainly wasn't one in the village hall. And I used to go every Thursday and plug in the laptops, and I'd do 6 classes on a Thursday. And then every night I did a different class in different care facilities around East Yorkshire and North Yorkshire. And I drove miles to these care facilities, often in the middle of nowhere, often with care assistants and trainee nurses in those care facilities. And on an evening after work, they'd come and they'd learn about computers, whether that was desktop publishing or whether it was Excel spreadsheets or whether it was Word for Windows then, or whether it was to use the internet, because it was a fairly, newfangled thing that took a long time, or whether it was that they were learning how to manage their Outlook email and coordinate their communication with their young people, because many of them had grandchildren and children whom had moved geographically and whom they wanted to communicate with, because they wanted to listen to hear what they had to say. And the internet was one way of listening. So I've been listening for a long time, and I then moved on to be a further and higher education teacher. I moved on then to the University of the Air, and I went to the Open University with my level 2 and my level 3s and a couple of A levels. And after that first degree, I went to be a psychotherapist. And the reason for that is because I had had therapy, and I realised the power of listening. Rob Tyson, my psychotherapist, he was at Scarborough General Hospital, and I was referred to him just after I came out of a psychiatric unit. And I went into a psychiatric unit because my dad had gone under a bus, unfortunately, in a road traffic accident. and it took 6 weeks for his brain not to respond, and I had to turn his life support machine off when I was 17. It was hard, and I didn't feel very well, and I was invited to go into hospital, and I took it up because I realised I wasn't right. I just wasn't right. I didn't quite understand the world. In fact, I really was quite upset about the fact that my world had been turned upside down, and so had everybody else's. My brother wasn't very well from it, and my mum certainly wasn't good because they were divorced, and it wasn't a nice process. And then 6 weeks later, after bringing his mum home with me because she was very, very distressed that her Jackie had died suddenly, she died too. So I had to bury my grandma on top of my dad. We double dug him. I don't really understand why we'd done that. I think it was to save money later on. I don't think it was very many more hundreds to have a double dug grave. So my grandma ended up in with my dad, which is where she wanted to be anyway, the second he went under the bus. And after that, I was invited quite shortly, about 6 months actually, into hospital. And I spent, I don't know, weeks there. I don't remember a great deal. I remember saying when I came out that they'd never fed me. But apparently they did have a canteen. I just don't remember any of the food, and I don't remember them feeding me. So for many, many months, I told everybody that they didn't even have a canteen or any food in that blooming hospital. But my father-in-law at the time, he who became my father-in-law, he said that I definitely had been fed, definitely. So it just shows that when we're a bit discombobulated, when crisis happens, sometimes parts of our brain don't respond the way that they might have, and that's why psychotherapy is really important. Because I believe as a therapist, through the power of listening, I've probably been able to support people outside of the hospital system and in the community to move through the traumatic experiences that they experience, because life is a trauma, right? Every single day there's something that's going to go on. Believe me, you're just waiting for the next undulation. If you think it's going to be smooth sailing, well, have a look at your life. Was it? I don't think it was. And I don't think it's going to be. There's nought so sure as eggs is eggs, as my grandma used to say, that change will happen and challenge will befall us. But challenge for me is an opportunity. It's an opportunity to listen to my life and wonder what it is that I can do next to overcome this challenge. And I do believe that Rob Tyson, my psychotherapist, who came via the NHS, I was fortunate. I really was fortunate. The universe really gifted me, Rob. Was my therapist for 18 more years. Yeah, I know. A lot of investment the NHS has made. You can see why I became a social worker and why I became a therapist and why I became a teacher, a Senko, because actually I have a lot to repay and I have a lot to be grateful for. And I want to share it with the world. Why? Well, I believe that the power of listening is probably the most important thing we've got. Now, when we listen, and when I got onto that level too, I was with a lot of people who often experienced a lot of trauma, right? People who go into counselling, I'm just telling you now, generally they need counselling. People that go into teaching, I'll be honest, generally they need to learn. And those that go into social work, well, you can imagine, can't you? Their life generally needs a little bit of tweaking. They need to be in community and they need to connect and they need to listen, not just to each other, but to themselves. So I think that all of my learning has been my becoming, and my becoming has been what I needed to learn. And that's because I had to put myself in positions where I could learn that which I wasn't that good at. And listening wasn't something that I was that good at. And even now, I'm pretty good at interrupting, which is, a trait that I am curtailing. I'm always in a hurry. Why? Well, I'm life limited, which means that I have multiple organ failure. I passed away during COVID, and my organs were affected by being intubated quite negatively. I was born with 4 kidneys and they're in failure. So is my heart, so are my lungs, so is my liver. So I am in a bit of a hurry, so it doesn't really help my listening. But my psychotherapy training did. And my level 2 was about us sitting in threes, actually. And some people say that the power of 3, 6, and 9 is exponential. And we sat in threes where somebody listened and somebody spoke and somebody observed the interaction. And I honestly think that the trio, the triad, the power of listening in threes is second to none. And those that have trained in therapy would understand what I'm saying. The process of watching and listening and speaking and sharing is incredible. We were taught to listen in solar. That sits squarely in an open pose, leaning forward actually, and being empathic and responsive. Listening to what that person said and then paraphrasing it back to them. Because actually, the first computer bot that was developed by a gentleman in America, I forget who it was now, that bot basically learnt to listen to what was being said or typed, and then it was just feeding back in a different word, in a different way, in paraphrased sentences, that which the individual had said. You know, oh, my life's terrible. My boyfriend's left me, and the kids have gone awry. No, it sounds to me like your relationship is struggling. I can hear that you're worried about your children's behaviour. Yes, 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 said the user. That's exactly what I said. Thank you, you heard me. And actually, the first lady, his secretary, that used that first computer bot, she said to him when he came into the office, excuse me, do you mind if you could leave us alone? I'm having a conversation. That was with the computer bot. It was so powerful that the power of listening and having her words said back to her gave her a sense of acknowledgement, and she could hear her words, and that's the power of listening. In psychotherapeutic terms, in any therapy, and in fact in any conversation, actually, when we speak, we want to hear ourselves. We want to hear what we've said, because we like to reflect ourselves back in our environment so we can understand ourselves. And that's the power of listening. And when we are attentive and literally are listening to the words to understand them, not to interrupt like I do sometimes, to understand them, not to respond, then we can hold a curiosity, an intrigue, a fascination, a concern, a love for the person that's speaking in front of us. And you know, we have two ears and one mouth. That's an indication to me and everybody else. Now, whether you are training in psychology or psychiatry or psychotherapy, or you just, I say just, or you're having a conversation with a loved one, listening and reflecting, hearing and imagining, and being curious and finding out with those open questions, you know, not, you're sad, aren't you? Yes, no. I hear that you don't sound like you're doing too great, are you, at the moment? What's going on for you? Is a much more effective question, because it sounds like you're really interested, aren't you, in what that person has to say, as opposed to, yep, I'm sad, great, now you're Mardy, I don't want to talk to you, for example. We need to listen to understand and not listen to respond. And I believe that that is the power of listening, because in our reflection, in our interaction, in our curiosity, then we hear more. We hear the intention beneath the words, because words are really very interesting, aren't they? Sometimes we're being sarcastic, sometimes we're being manipulative. Sometimes we're trying to get what we want with the words we use. Sometimes we're saying far more than the words say. In fact, I would say pretty much all the time we're saying more than the words say. So we're looking then, being curious about, interested of somebody's intention, our intention, their intention, and what really are they looking for? What are we looking for when we speak to the other? Apart from that reflection back, and I think sometimes that is all we're looking for. We're not always looking for an answer, even when we ask a question. We're not always looking for a solution, even when we say we are. I think sometimes we're looking for space, a space and a place, like the village halls and the care facilities that I set up, a space and a place to share and come together, just like this one, and belong and feel a sense of belonging and feel a space where we can be seen and heard and valued and reflected upon and about. And I don't even think sometimes that we need words. I think listening without words is sometimes the most powerful thing that we can do. And I want to say thank you to all of you today for helping me to speak my words out to a wider audience whilst you're here. You cannot know the power of our togetherness except if you were me. And I want to tell you now, if you're listening, that your energy is empowering to me. It gives me the accountability and the requirement and the desire and the hope that actually I'm being listened to, right? But not listened to answer my problems or find my solutions, but listened to in order that you perhaps can glean a different understanding from a perspective that you have about something that you thought about once. And that's all I think we're all looking for, a different perspective of the challenges that we've got right now. And when I went into hospital, I don't think I was psychiatric. I think I was a very sad little girl. I think I'd lost my dad when I was 11 because he left my mum. He was an alcoholic and they couldn't live together, and I didn't really want him there. He wasn't really very well. But I missed him. And when he went under the bus, I knew that was it. And I had to turn his life support machine off. That was a really big deal for a 17-year-old. A big deal for anyone at any age. I don't care how old you are, losing our parents is really hard. And I am an orphan. I use that and I always laugh because I think you're old, you can't be an orphan, but I am. And lots of people have their mums and dads around, actually. And it's really hard that I haven't. Really hard. So when I went into hospital, it was a space for me just to be. I mean, don't get me wrong, they pumped me full of medication that, I'll be honest, I don't think I needed, and I remained on well until 4 years ago, actually. The antidepressants that they put me on. I stayed on them because I didn't really know what life was like without them. But now that I have to say that I can listen far more effectively because I can actually hear what people are saying. My emotions are turned on, my responses are there, and that means that I can listen and really feel what I'm hearing. And I do believe that when we stop and just take enough time to listen with curiosity and with love, well, I believe that miracles happen. Not only do we hear what people are saying and are able to reflect that back to them, but we afford a space and a place and a sense of belonging that's second to none, and actually is the most edifying experience and the most able to feed our soul that I think we can ever perpetuate, ever create, ever collaborate to imagine. That's why I feel that belonging in business, or whether you're in MJ's house on a motivational Monday at 6, or here in Bib, as people are starting to call it, at 8 o'clock, or even on a Monday night, if you dare to join us in Inclusion at 7 p.m. I believe that we are fostering a sense of belonging to each other, with each other, and a sense of accountability that actually we need to be curious to listen to each other's narrative. And Inclusion is the most diverse group of individuals you could ever wish to meet. Most disability clubs, right, have blind people in them, or deaf people in them, or wheelchair users, or those with motor neuron disease, or those with multiple sclerosis, but not Inclusion, because we don't exclude to include. And actually our diversity is exactly where we're at. And since the 1st of November, I have been on a 55-day challenge. Not in the gym, not this time. Not on a hand cycle. No. My challenge has been far greater than that. I've had to gather from all over the universe, and I'm begging you now, come on, if you've got one, send it me. Give me your address. I've been gathering Christmas jumpers because since the 1st of November, I have been wearing a different Christmas jumper or t shirt or pajamas every day and a night. Um, and I've been taking a photo of them. And then we've had some narrative, some story, and this is one of them, The Power of Listening, to raise money for the disabled entrepreneur, the first disabled entrepreneur. And I want that disabled entrepreneur over the ball, over the finish line in January. I want, when we open our space, our MJ's house, when we open our inclusion space in Cardiff Bay, sorry, Mermaid Key, get that right. I'm in Cardiff Bay, but it's Mermaid Key, which is just around the corner. In Mermaid Key in Cardiff, I want to be able to crown the first disabled entrepreneur. We have some amazing people coming to our opening, including Cindy Gallop from New York, who I'm speaking with at SHADA, the Sexual Health and Disability Association, on the 20th of November. And I'm inviting Tuppy, although I don't know whether she'll come, Tuppy Owens, Dr. Tuppy Owens, who runs Outsiders, where I met some of the people on this stage. We're gathering amazing people. And Dale Wyatt, the director of Suzuki, an amazing friend of mine who I had dinner with, breakfast with, not dinner, breakfast with in Brighton last weekend, and his beautiful, amazing, lovely companion. We were at the Grand actually, where Joe's dad was killed, Joe Berry. What a beautiful building. Difficult to get into for me though, but the staff really listened. So I would like to smash the ballpark, smash it out the ballpark. I'd like to get the disabled entrepreneur. We're raising £10,000. Why? Well, in England, if you're disabled and you go into business, you've got to make the minimum income guarantee or the lower earnings limit of just shy of £7,000, or access to work just stops. And access to work is the government programme that my business provides. And if anyone wants to know about that, you need to go to www.a2, the number 2, w.me, access to work me, or you can find us at accessibilitypartners.co.uk. But if you're dyslexic, you probably can't spell accessibility. It's a bit of a test I do as a SENDCO with people. Spell accessibility partners. You don't know how many C's and S's or whether it's an IB or not, and therefore maybe you need an assessment. So if you want to know where we are, accessibilitypartners.co.uk or a2w.me, access to work me. Well, the Disabled Entrepreneurs Club really important to me. I hand cycled a marathon and raised about 2/3 of the money we need, and now I am wearing 55 Christmas jumpers. So please, if you've got any, send them to me. I've got jumpers coming from Canada, I've got them coming from Estonia, I've got them coming from Denmark. Actually, I've got them coming from, well, all over the flipping place. Yeah. Oh, and Scarborough. I've been blagging some from my son. So if you've got a Christmas jumper, please send it to me. I'll be wearing it in our 55 Advent days before Christmas, which if you look on inclusion.gg, there is an amazing Advent calendar evolving with a picture of me being silly, sometimes with a face mask on. If you want to see me in my raw, go there. And there's some really great 55 days of listening and reading and learning about things to do with inclusion, and we feel that that is a powerful affirmation, and I think it's a great jumper challenge. I think it's a great challenge to put myself through, and it isn't easy. 55 days of photos, 55 days of content, 55 days of imagineering, 55 days of learning how to help people understand inclusion, because inclusion is a foregone conclusion, guys. It just is. We have nearly 5k of followers to this house now. And our social media is just, expanding, because exponential growth is inevitable when you put the work in, when you really listen to what people need, listen to the culture of society and see where things are going. And we know where we're going. We have to go to inclusion, because if we don't harness the power of our disabled community, well, I believe that the disabled community is the answer to the UK's work crisis, employee crisis, creation crisis. I believe when we include everybody, then we get everybody at the table, then we get a true understanding of what's needed. Like when I listened way back when to those needs for computer skills from those people who didn't have them. So I opened the spaces and the places in order for them to get them. And that's what we're doing again, 20, 30 years on, opening a space and a place for belonging, not only virtually, but physically. And that's just the beginning. We've only just got started in Wales. What we're doing in Wales, we're going to be doing everywhere else in 15 years' time. Believe me, look at the Wales plan to 2040. They've got one. And this government practice on Wales. So if you want to see what's going on in England, you ought to look at Wales, because you'll be able to look back, to look forward and see where we are now. And really look with curiosity, because then you'll see where we're going. And that's pretty much what listening is. Listening with curiosity to see where we're going together with an honest and open and transparent heart. And I think at 5:30, because I have such amazing humans with me and on the stage, I want to say thank you and hey to May. I'm just going to add you back. How lovely to see you. I am your first follower, May, and you have such a beautiful, beautiful picture. Oh, it's a baby kitten having a cuddle with a little blankie. How amazing. And hey, Andy, it's great to see you here as well. Yeah, I think you are. Yeah, I think you are special, to be honest. Never mind not special. I think you are. I think you're incredibly special. And it's a delight to see you, Stefan. Oh, how long it has been. And Matt, and Jew, and Alexia, and Andrew, and James, and Tony. So I'm going to hand over now, and I'm looking forward to hearing what everybody else has got to say. And I'm looking forward to, instead of speaking, to listening. So thank you. And I will, yes, please do come up. Tony, good morning. Are you first? Yes, you are.
I am. Peculiar, isn't
it? I like it when you're peculiar.
So, yes, that was a lot to think about. And I don't know that I've got much to say.
That's okay, I can listen.
I have been sort of browsing through my poetry collection, trying to find one that resonates, but there's really not one that resonates with me today. So I will choose one that
Should I just give you a number?
chimes with a little.
Oh, okay.
It's called A Secret Fear. The world is full of secret fears we hug and fill our breasts with. Their dame revealing with our tears the spectre looming over us, that with the lash of frightfulness contains our forced silentness. We wreathe in smiles our gloomedness, or of the wild strain of heart leaving our breast.
Can you read that again, please?
So, the world is full of secret fears we hug and fill our breasts with. Their dame revealing with our tears the spectre looming over us. But with the lash of frightfulness maintains our forced silentness. We read in smiles our gloomless, all of the wild strain of our breath.
Can you tell me about it?
Well, we all do it. We all do it. We all fear. And joy is the antidote to fear, and community, and communication, and listening to others and to ourselves, connection, and so on.
I love listening
But
to you.
thank you. There's always fears that we don't speak. We may imply, we may not mention them at all. There's always fears. But why should we be ruled by fear? That's the whole point of living, is to challenge our fears. It's to say, okay, I'm afraid of that. How can I move past that? How can I make something that frightens me part of my life? How can I use it to grow? Maybe I'll still be frightened in 10 years. Maybe I won't be. Or maybe it'll just be one of those things. I'm frightened of that. Doesn't really matter. But the world is one of those places at the moment where there are a lot of secret fears, not so secret fears. But I'll try and keep out of politics today. It's hard.
It's hard this week, isn't it?
Isn't it just?
Really hard. Really hard not to pin your colours to the mast.
Indeed. But yes, and sometimes, I mean, one of my fears is speaking.
Really?
Yeah.
Yet you're so
Speaking in
eloquent.
public.
Yet you're
Oh,
so
thank
eloquent,
you.
right? Sorry.
Thank you. Sometimes I'm eloquent. Sometimes I'm founded. And, and sometimes just getting moving is what it takes to overcome that fear.
Mm.
Just pushing yourself over that bump in the road that's stopping you from taking part in whatever's got you nervous and taking part. And sometimes you just need to push yourself that extra step. And then suddenly it's like, oh, this isn't so bad.
You know that computer course that I put Fran on? Way back when in the village hall. She thanks me today for annoying her to come on a Thursday and support me. She was terrified of coming and meeting 11 other people she'd never met in a village hall in Foxholes, actually, near Scarborough. She used to whinge every week and say how she couldn't do the work and it was too hard. 25 years on, she's pretty chuffed she came.
I should imagine so. Because, they're slightly important in the modern world.
They are, aren't they? Little did she know way back when, eh? No, she never leaves her house. In fact, if she couldn't work from home, she wouldn't be working because she's got 3 kids and most of them are always at home. So, yeah, I think pushing past our fear is really important. It certainly was for Fran. I'm talking about her without her. In belonging in. So, for somebody that had nought to say, you've done all right, really.
Well, it was just pushing myself past that first step. That first
How right.
stumbling block.
How right. How right you are. How very, very profoundly right you are, Tony Lloyd. I love you so much, you know.
The feeling is definitely reciprocated.
Good, because I wouldn't want you not in my life, because you're just fantabulous. I adore knowing you there, and I love hearing your words. And I love it at stupid o'clock when you just go pop up and go, "You okay?" And I'm like, "Oh, I am now." So thank you.
You're very welcome.
Oh, my heart is full, I tell you. as I go through this day, I couldn't feel more motivated and loved and honoured and respected and respectful and just, well, belonging. That's what I feel.
Yeah, that's good.
Maybe this shit works. Who knew, eh? When Jew encouraged me to open, he's like, you will have people, there'll be me and you and loads of them. Like, are you sure? He's like, look, there'll be 100 before you know it. Oh, thank you, Jew, and thank you, Tony. I'm going to go to somebody else who's really important. Andrew, good morning, my love.
Good morning, and it was funny listening to what you were saying because you'll never guess what happened to me yesterday at 4 o'clock.
Go on, what happened at 4 o'clock?
Yesterday, I met a student who was in Scarborough who was training to work with the police, and it was almost like a reverse conversation of the first one you and I had all those years ago when I was doing the autism course. Only we were talking about assistive technology rather than autism, but I was very careful because obviously with AT training, we don't get told the disability.
No.
And I'm not really supposed to ask. I didn't. And actually, by listening and seeing where the student was at, like for example, there was a little bit of confusion because with the Canon printer, the instructions have slightly changed over the last year. But actually, hearing people, and one of the things that I think that you mentioned this to me, but a lot of people don't, is every day teachers need to learn, although they may have a PGCE and other qualifications, you need to learn something new and also be able to reflect upon what's happening. And it sometimes there are packages like for example, I've just been given the 2024 and the 2025 version of Zoom Text and Shorts. Thankfully, because Sight and Sound are one of our business partners, they help to fund Study Tech. So one of the things that I found really useful is actually being able to look at something myself, and so I can learn how to use the program, and then I'll be able to help other people. But also sometimes, we also need to think about what we can do to support others. So about 20 years ago, I worked as a volunteer in Redbridge College. This is an inner London college where it's been taken over now, so people won't really know the name. But there were people there who I was supporting, and they probably did need support, but at that time, because it was 2004, there wasn't really that much support. But when you actually do something as a volunteer, and then you're thinking, oh, I might do this, that experience enabled me to decide what I wanted to do once I graduated. Although I didn't work formally in a college until 5 years later for various reasons, actually you can learn things sometimes subconsciously. And also learning, that if something doesn't go right straight away, to reflect. And I appreciate kind of what you're saying as well. And people, what the trouble is people make assumptions about people. And that's why I think now people don't necessarily disclose what disability they have. Because sometimes people and I was watching this video yesterday, where there was a lady who's received ESA. It was on the Text Up had this seminar thing. I didn't get to go, but I've got it on catch up. Who was mentioning about there's a stereotype and negativity around her ADHD. But once she was concentrating on what she was saying, I could actually hear her. But the trouble is, people do stereotype. And actually learning that you can listen and actually just sometimes just take a step back, because at the end of the day, yes, I may be there to train someone, but everyone has their own way of doing things. And when we come to rooms like this, you can have autonomy. One of the things that I really hated about Chatter towards the end, one of the reasons why I left there, it felt very much like a dictatorship. Things have got to be done this way, forever glitching, and this is still in its infancy. It's okay for there to be glitches. Well, I'm sorry, it's not, because even though I have Asperger's syndrome, I felt quite frustrated, and I can imagine people who have other needs who will be frustrated if they can't hear, and if it keeps knocking people out, and then Even Terry, he once took nearly 10 minutes to join the room, and he just wanted to come and listen, and he couldn't because the app kept glitching. So how are we supposed to raise an audience? And for Annalie to tell me, oh, it's okay for it to glitch, well, why was it? You're not listening to my feedback. I said, please, can you ensure that captions are available, that people can get in? Why was the app even actually put on beta, testing and being made available to public to listen? If something's testing, like for example, before we went fully live, when I was working for a sister who owned Study Tech, I dry run the invoicing systems before it went out to every single employee. So I was the one going through getting students to sign digitally, because if it was one person and it didn't go through, it did, thankfully. We hadn't lost a lot of money. You test things. But the Chancellor app was not fully tested. It should not be having people using it. And they didn't listen. And Annalie's very harsh tone, I'm in my 60s. So I was thinking, well, so what? I had to teach my mum, who's in her 60s, how to do online banking. I've had to tell her how to use, various apps to try and manage things well, she had her own email address and everything for a while. I put it onto a tablet for her. I taught her how to do some of the tech things that, Dad used to do. But people need to learn from each other and to listen. And when people say, oh, you're saying this way because it works for you, but each person is unique.
Mm-hmm.
So when you've got feedback, I mean, yes, I know I was a bit stubborn, when I was a bit set in my ways. But when people don't hear you and you've been told things, and, someone like, one of my professors at my undergraduate degree, Tony, I've got 5 degrees, I know everything. Well, why is it from your lecture, all I can remember, and my memory is very good, that you have 5 degrees and your class used to start at 1:30, and then you go around with this pink pen waving it at the projector. You use size 8 Times New Roman, despite being told by the dyslexia coordinator and the deputy dyslexia coordinator and the disability services, please stop using Times New Roman size 8. There are several students in your class who are doing computing who are dyslexic or dyspraxic, and they won't be able to read it. Oh no, Times New Roman is fine. People will learn to cope. Well, actually, no. And subsequently, I passed his module. Thankfully, the guy who did the seminar, Mark, he was quite open, and thankfully, it was a coursework. Thank God there was no exam, because I wouldn't have remembered anything. So I scraped a 2 in a module where there are jobs. So it's a project management module. If I'd had someone decent and I wanted to go into that sector, I could have done it. But because of idiots like him, Times New Roman is the only way, even though there are people who qualified in disabilities telling him not to do it. Oh, I've got a PhD. I'm a professor. I know everything. That approach, now, if I'd have been there now, he wouldn't have got away with it, because I was quite, very much, he's quite high up, don't challenge. But because people have that mentality, and he had that kind of thing, he wouldn't listen. Whereas, Dr. Sarah Ingle-Smith, she was like, oh, okay, yes, you can record the class, and in one of her modules, I got 21 out of 25. Andrew could go and do a PhD, and she told me that, some time ago, and I might one day. But because she was open to feedback, she said initially, why are you using this digital recorder? I said, well, because, I struggled to take notes because of my dyspraxia, blah, blah, blah. I wasn't diagnosed with AS until a few years afterwards, but she was able to listen. Oh, actually, one of my colleagues, Dr. Rebecca Randall, whose module I also took, is looking into how technology can help. And she was like, oh, okay, I get it. And it wasn't a problem. And Serengo had been teaching for about 15 years, but she was open to listening to what I needed. And when people listen, so in Serengo's module, I got a 2-1. So, it just goes to show. Anyway, I realise I'm rambling a bit.
You're not.
But I do think it's important that people learn to adapt. And at the end of the day, if you've met one person with a condition, you've met one person.
Exactly.
And if you don't listen to people, especially in today's society, there is more than one supplier, and, for many things. And one shop, WH Smith, I boycotted their store for 6 months because I was challenged for buying GT, Attitude, and Boys magazine when I was 18. I wasn't buying anything illegal.
No.
You know, they were five of the magazines cost like a tenner now. It'd be more like 40, but they were really rude. So I didn't go in there and buy anything for 6 months.
Good.
So, you know, you have to listen to people, and I'll enjoy listening to what everyone else has to say.
And I love listening to you for all of these years, and I am so happy that you were the forerunner in assistive technology. Hey everybody, it's great to see you here, Sunil and Richard. It's great that you've joined us. I'm just going to add you back, Richard. Oh wow, looks amazing. I love to see what you do. Ah, good morning, Shula. It's lovely to see you, Bella. You know, Andrew, the fact that you spoke up for yourself and you explained about sans serif fonts and about the size of it, and you know, well, you made your own career, right? And those tutors that listened to you, that heard what you had to say, they became lecturers who were the forerunners to inclusion in higher education, to widening participation, to the University Foundation Award that I then delivered with Stuart in Hull University, and without that, Francesca wouldn't have her qualifications and I wouldn't have my qualifications, and we wouldn't be here influencing, impacting and supporting so many other people. So the
That
power
is very true, MJ. And just
is,
to let you know,
yeah.
I hasten to add, you will be pleased to hear Serengal is actually now in charge of the course. So she's in charge of ICT at Middlesex. Although they're in the factory at Hendon, which I don't like, because it used to be very nice at Trent Park. She's now in charge. So at least the younger students now have got a good chance.
Exactly. And you made that difference with me before we even knew each other, when we were influencing the ICT movement and the fact that assistive tech and using those products, you know, made the way for this app, made the way for Dragon, made the way for Text Help, made the way for Captioned, made the way actually for universities and Panopto, where they record the lectures. And Cardiff Met, the university I was talking about, where I've gone to become a social worker, they have just, the last university in Wales, have just got Panopto. So we have in the last 6 months, actually it was in the last 6 weeks, had our lectures recorded for the last 6 weeks. But for the students that come after me, those social workers that come after me, those disabled social workers that they weren't expecting, the ones that I said to them, well, how about what we're going to do when my deaf students come along to this course? Because, you know, we have Vicky Wilkins in inclusion, and what if she wants to be a social worker? Well, she's deaf and she needs the recording so that she can have assistive software to be able to listen in her way back to the lectures. So you and I are forerunners because we've been doing the same thing out of necessity for the last 20 million years. And I'm grateful for you listening, and I'm grateful that we were able to listen to each other all those years ago when you entered my screen and then my life and then my business and now my future. So Andrew, I don't know how many years it's been, but I'm grateful to have you and Jaron in my life, and of course your beautiful boy. I'm not denying your beautiful boy and the last one that unfortunately is no longer with us. But, you know, I'm just grateful for all of you in my life and in this space and the impact that you have on others, because here's somebody you've influenced and who we've influenced and who now has just got 75% in her latest tutor marked assignment. Didn't you, Alexia?
I still don't think that's real.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. You got 75%. It's called learning because you've been listening for years.
It's fascinating. I'm going to say this because I think it's important for anybody who's listening in. I was 70 in January. I'm not talking about that for the poor me. What I want people to realise is we're going to live longer. Whether we've got health issues or not, and yeah, my leg really has taken a turn for the worse this week. So I think we might be having words with the doctors in the hospital next week at some point.
Good.
But you can always adapt. MJ said about me, one of the first things we had in our first meeting was apart from the fact I'm not disabled. Well, I can never go to university, and we still have some lecturers that need to think about what they say.
Mm.
I will try and go back and find it, not because I necessarily want to run the tutor down, but the very first course I had at the Open University, bearing in mind, all I knew about the Open University was all that we'd actually discussed when you signed me up. I couldn't have gone into it any more blind than if I had to say it at all. Because well, in this room, you're the only one who knows just how severe my dyslexia is.
It's true.
And we're not exaggerating when we talk about it.
We're really not. We're really not. My frustration at you finding a bit of the screen.
You might have bashed me on the head.
I think metaphorically I did occasionally.
I'm doing it myself now. Now the leg's doing what he's doing. But the reason I brought this up is it's imperative we really think about what we say. You've said this so many times, but that tutor, that first tutor, she probably didn't mean it that way. But in my first assignment, not actually knowing what I was doing, not actually knowing how to use the Open University, and it's all very well to say it's all there online.
It isn't. It takes forever to learn that system.
Oh God, it does, and as Andrew said, it's constantly changing. So I go in there, and what I get back was, well, if this is what you're going to put in, you're not going to qualify. You hadn't actually taken the trouble to find out anything about me or to contact me. To my mind, that's what a good tutor is. That's what I try to do when I teach people about the plan. Well, if I've written about something, come back and ask me. I will do my best to explain to you why I've written it. Because if you put something out there, you put it out there for a reason.
Of course you
do. Or I do.
Yes, so do I.
Do. But for years and years, whether you believe in other connections in the universe, but MJ and I know for sure there is. We've both been
there.
The other side and back. So there is. Otherwise, I couldn't have some of the connections that I have on the other side. I'm digressing a bit, but I'm going to tell you, when I was writing for Fear to Peace, and that's now going to be out in a slightly different version, it's been updated.
Yes.
I've been following Wayne Dyer for a long time, and I got to about the third chapter in the book, and I was really struggling. And then I've got a friend that I met over 20 years ago now at Spiritualist College, and she rang me up. She said, you know, and I said, yes, Wayne Dyer has just died. He's standing here telling me to get on with the book that I've been writing. And he literally was standing in the room saying, just keep going, you can do this. Don't worry about what you're writing, we'll sort it out.
I've got goosebumps.
Well, I didn't want to write that book. MJ spent enough time with me when I've talked about in this room that I didn't want to put pen to paper.
Ugh.
I meant it. I really, really meant it.
You were terrified.
I still get that feeling when I've got to do anything with access to work or DSA.
Of course, I understand that. It's terrifying.
It automatically makes me panic. Yeah. And that goes back to something that was said to me after the fraud. I mean, as a psychologist, I understand that. I understood it because I've done counselling courses, but I wasn't like you. I like to learn things from more than one way. And when you say, and I say, that you need to be very careful what words you use and what you say, you really do.
Well, you can change people's lives.
I can remember my mum saying to me, I'm a dyslexic, you tell them how to spell it, and 10 minutes later, they're halfway down the page. But I know I spelled that before, but I can't find it. How do you spell whatever it is? And my mum was a grammar school girl.
Oh dear.
So, for God's sake, I've told you that. So what do? You shut down.
You do? That's what my mum was like.
Yeah. And I'm seeing that to a degree I see that a lot in Daniel's kids. One of them is very bright. The youngest one isn't. I'm trying to gently get time with him because we all do it. Daniel's rebelling a bit because of how he is. But I've just got to do that one gently and let them come to me when they're ready and show them that there is ways around it. But you'll only find those ways whether it's something that's happened in your life physically, like you losing your dad and having to be the one to turn the machine off, or whether it was me with abroad a year after John had died to be really wealthy and then to find you got nothing in the bank. Andrew there again said something that's very important this morning. Is going and helping others. I went and worked, and I can say which charity because I have that permission. I went and worked for Marie Curie. I didn't actually want to work for Marie Curie. I actually wanted to work for the Salvation Army, but it didn't happen that way. And I ended up as a manager. Now, I never went after that job.
No.
That job came to me. Sometimes we have to let things go. I mean, I am finally going to get that computer. I'm not sure whether I'm going to get it this week or next week.
Exciting.
Well, I will get it. But the latest saga on this one is, and it might just to show people how things can take time. They contacted me in a roundabout way to say your computer's repaired. So, well, you've got a copy of what I sent. So, just for everybody else. I made sure that it was going to be the new one I wanted that they were going to send by putting the make and the model in the reply email. Well, I was busy all day yesterday because I got Paul and I needed to do 2 or 3 things. And I had an email because they said that they could deliver it within 48 hours. So this was Thursday. I'd sent the email. So I replied to it at 5:30 yesterday morning. And I had another email from them saying that if I wanted it by then, I had to reply before 3. Well, I couldn't because I had the sight sound people coming to help me with things in the house.
Good.
And I've dug my heels in and said that they're setting that computer up and I'm not doing it.
Definitely.
Because they accused me of doing things on that computer which stopping it working properly. So that's my only option. So I might not get it to the following week now because I couldn't reply to their email. But hey, the old faithful Mac is still keeping going.
It will be. It will be. I don't think Macs die. They just get more mature.
Oh, it's got a temperamental mode in it. If you go looking for stuff, it will tell you can't have that page.
Yeah. Well, it won't. Well, it's because it's mature and it hasn't got. It can't catch up. It can't be backwards compatible. But yeah, that's what happens to old people and old computers.
Don't watch it.
Hey, listen. I think of you and me at the same age, my love. You are amazing. I am so proud of you. When I heard, and I know that I'm naughty because I then got all excited with Chrissy yesterday because me and Alexia, for those that are listening, have the same study skills tutor because she couldn't find one, so I sneaky peeked it round the corner and through another firm and out the other side to the tutor that I knew that could work with her. But that's the way we work, right? The power of listening. I knew what we needed, and then I listened to how we did that, and then we did it together. And we were up front and loud and proud about it, and there we are. 75%, Alexia. Honestly, you couldn't make me any more proud if you, I don't know.
The first one was 10%. The next one was 30%. The one after that was... I will try and find them all so I can post it just to show people. One of the things you talk about is persistence.
It is.
And Pete talks about it.
He does.
Any good coach talks about it. It is persistence. That's what change is.
It is incremental action. It really is, because change happens when we make change happen, doesn't it? As Tony said.
It does. It doesn't happen. I mean, no. James is another one. To go through what he went through as an accident in the gym, he could have said, right, I've had enough with what he's gone through in his job and everything else. I'm not doing. No. He found another way of getting fit till he was told by the doctor. I mean, that was my first question when I saw the surgeon about my knee. Right. Well, I'm not going to stop doing floor exercises, so I hope you're going to show me a safe way. Once I've had a knee replacement, I can still get off the floor.
Exactly.
I said, because to me, that's going to be critical.
Exactly. Because
with my health problem, just like situations with you, 1 minute you can be in your chair, the next minute you move to something you do on the floor. Well, I can do the same, getting up off the chair or stepping off the pavement. My body doesn't tell the other part of it it's got to move, and I end up on the floor.
Exactly.
So that surgeon has got to think a different way. Not only is he got to think of a different way about doing my knee replacement because the tendons are gone, but I've realised something else on that today, and that's what I'm going to go back to the doctors about. On my medical report, my right leg is down as being half an inch shorter than the left. Now that knee and the tendons have gotten, the right leg is going sideways, leaning away from the left leg.
Yeah.
So that means that my leg has moved at least an inch if it's moved away from the right leg and it's on the floor.
Wow.
That's seriously dangerous. Yesterday, I got a really sharp pain down my leg. Something else has shifted. So I need to go back to the doctors and make them understand that if they don't do this,
you do.
It's going to cost the NHS 3 times as much to put it right.
Certainly is. We don't need you being Robocop, do we?
No, but it might be interesting. I didn't know it was Robocop.
I'm going to say, I'll be honest, I'm quite excited about it. I'm ready to be a cyborg. I'm ready. I'm literally ready. I'm having spinal surgery next year. I'm ready.
If we're flying somewhere, that then causes a bigger issue because you can't go through the scan machines.
Hey, listen, with the amount of piercings I've got all the way through my body, I'm not sure I can go through any machine. And when I have an MRI, they put a shield. I'm not going to tell anyone where.
When they did my brain scan, they had a brand new piece. They had a brand new scan machine. It was only one doctor trained to do it. So there are 2 doctors there learning, plus the engineer teaching them. They have my brain scan 3 times. Now, anybody who's been through a brain scan knows it's not a very nice experience. It's to sit there and go through it 3 times and not like being in confined spaces. Took a bit of control.
Oh, it makes me stress. But now I get so responsive to it. I make myself go to sleep now. Now I wake up suddenly and I'm like, oh, that banging stopped. Oh, because I put music on and I make them play me music. Now I've got used to it. You see, as Tony said, moving through that fear. Now I get in a scan machine and I work so hard that when I get there, it's like a rest and I drop off.
Yeah, exactly. We use those techniques with pain, but
That's
we
right.
do have to realise that sometimes with you and sometimes with me, that all the techniques we know, the body needs a support, because that's why we've learned how to use all these techniques on the earth. Otherwise, we wouldn't know how to do it.
We wouldn't. Paul McKenna is the greatest teacher I've ever had. Do you know that?
Oh, God, I'm fascinated by him.
He's amazing. He's amazing. He's amazing. He's amazing. He's amazing. He's amazing. Just going to keep saying it. He's amazing. He's amazing. I absolutely adore him. He's amazing. And as part of my my coaching program, I get lives with him. And you can be one-to-one coached with him and a few others. But honestly, I literally think he's fascinating. I think he's a genius, and I think he's so unassuming that actually he just naturally helps you learn naturally. So I'm bringing those things to the fore. You know, in my social work, hypnosis and neurolinguistic programming, and the power of suggestion is really, really important to motivating people to listen and move forward.
It is, because it's free to do.
It is free to do. It's free to do.
That is, well, the book's been renamed. It's called Fear to Speak. But
nice.
It's actually, that's what it all comes down to. When I had no money in the bank, I couldn't go and pay to work with Pete or
No.
to work with you or
No.
do anything else. And DSA told me I couldn't have any support.
Yeah.
The actual robot was no.
Yeah.
And that's the way the bloke spoke to me.
That is true. That is true. But, you know, when we listen to the universe and to ourselves, and we listen really hard to what we want and what we really desire, and then well, for me, my gratitude journal is,
that's so important.
I showed it to Jew this morning, and I just said, you know, the power of gratitude has been something that I practiced. I practiced in Clubhouse, you know, and Matt used to come into those rooms, and we go to Matt's next. Gratitude, literally the attitude of gratitude, the power of on a Saturday, spending an hour of listening to people's gratitude changed my experience. My experience.
I agree. Well, you and I wouldn't have met if it wasn't for COVID.
No, we wouldn't, you see. And that's because we came here to listen to each other. We wouldn't have Matt. I don't know what my life would be without Matt. I'll tell you what, he gives me the best cuddles in the entire universe. I'm just saying. So if anyone wants a real cuddle, it's Matt Rowden you need to go to. I'm just going to tell his wife I'm going to borrow him just consistently for a cuddle. And his children, I'm going to borrow their dad. Can I borrow your dad for a bit? I haven't got my own. He went under a bus. I'm going to pass on to Matt and say, Matt, you're my dad.
I'm going to get dressed.
Oh, you're naked again, Alexia.
Yeah. my leg had the gremlins in it, so I gave in. Is it Saturday? And
go and get some clothes on now. You can't have we can't have 70-year-olds in here naked.
When your dad turn up in a minute.
Yeah, we don't want the boys in with you naked as well. I'm just imagining now. I'm going to move on. Matt, good morning.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. It's good to be here, and I'm loving the humour. I love the fun. I love the stories. I love the power that you bring. I'm always fascinated. I'm always doing something else whilst I'm listening to you. But what I choose to do when I'm doing something else whilst listening to you, it's funny because I don't plan it. I don't organise it in a way that this is what I'm going to do this morning. It just happens. It just happens. And whatever I'm doing, if I'm creating something on the screen, my ears are just tuning in to the power of MJ and what you bring each week, which is what I do believe. I left something similar like that in a testimony about what your mission is, you know, and why I keep turning up to your rooms on a Saturday, because it's not that there's nothing else to do, because believe you me, in my life there is always something to do, but indeed. I just feel like you slot in where it doesn't. I don't have to stop what I'm doing. Do you know? I don't know. I'm just trying to just give you a bit of context about where I am right now, and I love the whole conversation around communication and listening, because it's one of my strengths. It's probably one of my biggest strengths. I was born with ears, and I was born with the ability to listen, but never understood the skill that was necessary to listen. Listening is a skill, and over the years, the many years, 20 years, I've been studying communication and being able to teach communication at a high level where, as you said, if you find that you need some form of therapy, right? If you find that you want to get into therapy, it's because you need therapy. And for me, I struggled to listen, so I went and studied listening. But I didn't realise when I wanted to study listening that I couldn't listen myself. That's not why I went to seek that kind of information. But communication is key. A quick story on the power of communication and how I used it very effectively, very recently at a very high level, was when recently, as some of you know, my wife suffered a severe stroke in May, and that can't be reversed. Many things in life can't be reversed. I think one of the only things we can do is something mechanical. We can reverse a car backwards if it's got the capabilities and we've got the skill. But when it comes to it, my wife had this episode happen for her in her life, and it's affected all of us around us, all of those around us. But it's not the stroke that was really the major factor. It was the recovery, the ongoing recovery that still remains the biggest factor. And during this time, I recognised that it was only through the ability that I've learned over all of these years. And, you know, one could say, well, the reason why you learned what you learned, Matt, is because it's going to serve you at some point in your life at a higher level where you wouldn't even recognise right now. And if I told you 20 years ago that in 20 years' time you're going to use what you've learned today to really unravel and help you leap forward in life without having any baggage and carrying around all of these problems because you can't actually process it through the art of listening and communication and being able to dissect and take layers off, that eventually you can move through the world a lot freer as an individual. I would have said, I don't know what you're talking about. I just want to learn how to listen effectively. Well, it just so happens that 20 years later, I find myself face to face on numerous occasions with some of the most powerful people in the world, highly regarded anyway in the industry that they are. And that's doctors and surgeons and stroke specialists. And I'd be there thinking, well, you know, here's Matt, you know, little me in this huge world of unknown that's just kind of hit us like a kind of, you know, a 10-ton lorry. It's just thrown so much impact in our life. But first of all, I had to listen to Georgia. First of all, I had to listen to me. First of all, I had to listen to my children. First of all, I had to listen to the experts. First of all, I had to put myself way, 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 way back in the queue because there were so many other people that were more important that made up the picture of where we were in our lives at that time. And I'll never, ever, ever, ever forget the time where my wife was told, you will be on medication for the rest of your life. And they'd only just known her for about 3 hours. And I'm thinking, hang on a minute. I've been married to her for 26 years. I've known her for 28. I know who I am. And I know who she is. And you've just made a diagnosis within 3 hours, 4 hours of knowing her, that she's going to be on medication for the rest of her life. Or I happen to disagree. Internally, this is what I'm thinking. I'm not saying this at the moment. I'm just processing. Why? Because I'm listening. I'm skilled at listening. And that means my body needs to react in a way and display a way that really I'm just absorbing what I'm hearing. Because why? I'm learning. Because I know fuck all. I don't know nothing about strokes. You know, I didn't even know she was having a stroke. No one would have at the time because she wasn't giving obvious signs. And that's just typical of my wife or someone in my family. They don't do typical, they don't do normal, right? But the point is, telling my wife in front of me that she's going to be on medication for the rest of her life was a quick judgment call. And I'm thinking, where is your evidence? Where is your evidence? It's all too easy to make a statistic out of something and someone and put someone in the same box. Well, we don't live in boxes, guys. We don't live in boxes. In our household, in the Rowden household, we do not live in boxes because the magic is outside of that box and we can see it, which is why we don't enter the box. So after about 3 weeks of consultations and drug taking and medication being thrown at her and all these side effects and things happening to her, I'm thinking, whoa. We've not once spoken about the holistic approach because there is one. We have all we need, and I don't disagree with medicine, but I do disagree with the fact that if we don't give the chance and the opportunity for something of nature to give the best form of recovery a chance, then we're missing the point. And so I would have deep conversations with these specialists. And I got to the point and I thought, let's simplify this because I'm going to lose. I'm going to lose the battle between their intelligence and my lack of knowing, because they know more than me. In terms of the medicine world, what's happened to my wife, they know more than me. So I'm going to put a stop to this approach, and I'm going to make it simple, because I can't listen to them anymore. My listening skills are breaking down. They're using long words and things like that mean nothing to me.
Mm.
I'm just going to stick with the obvious. Guys, let me ask you a question. This is what I said to the doctors. I want to ask you a question. When will we know my wife can come off of the medication?
Mm.
I had 5 stroke specialists at individual times, sometimes together as a unit, would look at me like I've got 3 heads. Your wife is on this for the rest of her life. And for the fact she's 49 and suffered this experience more than once, she's going to be on this for the rest of her life. And guys, you're not answering my question. Please honour the fact that I've asked a question. Please answer it. And they said the same thing. And I said, well, okay, I need to ask a different question. And the different question is this. How will I know when it would be right for my wife to come off this medication? What would be the signs we're looking for? They gave me the same answers. And I'm like, you're missing the point.
Mm.
So you give someone antidepressants, as you spoke about earlier on, MJ. I'm just going to wrap this up. You spoke about antidepressants. Well, let me ask you, doctors, how do you know someone is ready to come off antidepressants? How do you know someone internally can laugh from within without the aid of something making them feel like they're better about themselves? How does that individual know? And they said to me, they don't.
No.
They'll never know. That will be their own choice, whether they give it up or not.
But they don't try either.
So what you're saying is that you're on antidepressants for life until that person makes that choice, yes or no? And they said yes. I said, so is that the same about medicine that my wife was on? It's her decision whether she wants to risk her life by coming off the medication because she believes she doesn't need it anymore. And she went, no. They said, no, she's on it for life. I said, look, guys, I'm asking for an indicator. Please listen to me. I'm not interested in your statistics. I'm not interested in your facts. I'm not interested in your past evidence. I want to know there is an indicator, please. And we're focusing a lot on blood pressure. She's on medication for blood pressure. And I'm like, she's overweight, she's unfit, she's mentally not in the right place. She's got work to do. What is the freaking indicator to know that she can come off medication? It took them 20 minutes after I asked that question to come back with the answer. And do you know what the answer was?
We don't know.
Because she went into hospital with blood pressure 222. Well, that was just about to go bang. She was just about to go bang. Well, her blood pressure, they got her blood pressure down over 2 or 3 days. They managed to reduce it. I said, what is the indicator to know that she can come off his medication? It took them 20 minutes to come out and say to me, low blood pressure. You're looking for low blood pressure. Now, that's a long story. But the point of my story is you can't get anywhere without the right questions. And if you're not prepared to listen to the answers from the right questions you ask, you ain't never going to get anywhere, because the goal isn't about getting Georgia off medication. The goal is about getting Georgia, my wife, in a very strong, healthy, functioning level where she's not dependent on medication. And if we can't beat that challenge, if we cannot rise to that challenge, well, then we're not fit for purpose. Because if all we do is just rely on the fact that we've been told, well, that's just taken away our independence as far as I'm concerned. So George is now, well, not now, since she was able, which was late June, to start moving in a very different way. The dizziness and everything that she's experienced is starting to dissipate. Her strength, she's doing 20 press-ups 4 times a week. She's able to do more than 30 to 40 sit-ups more than 3 to 4 times a week. She's managed to get her steps up to 10,000 in a week. She's used to doing that in a day. She's moving more and more and more. Her blood pressure is getting lower and lower and lower. So guess what? Over time, we are achieving the objective, and that is to reduce the blood pressure so it goes too low, and that way she can start weaning off the medication. This journey's been going on since the end of May. We now stand here in November, and she has already had her blood pressure medication reduced down to an infinite amount, a small, minute, tiny, little amount. That if she continues this way for the next 6 months, she should be free of that medication. And that was all due to the fact that all I wanted to do was ask the right questions and be prepared to listen to the expert, but in a way that it was effective for us, for my wife, to be able to live a beautiful life moving forward. So that's all I wanted to say. I know it was a long story, but you know what? It's a life we're talking about, and I think you know, MJ, as well as I do, when we're talking about life, we give it all the time that we can because it's precious. And communication, we get that right, life changes forever. I love you.
I love you too, and I love Georgia, and I love the fact that you're here and that you and her had experienced all of that loving regard for health and well-being a long time before that occurred, because she wouldn't be doing those sit-ups, you wouldn't have asked those questions, those doctors couldn't have been honest because you wouldn't have asked them, and then you couldn't have listened to the response. And the fact that she's reducing the medication for me is phenomenal. When I came out of hospital, I was on 26 different types of medication, and I'm grateful today that the only thing I take out with me is a heart spray and an antispasmodic injection, and I take those out for when I need them, as opposed to, as a natural happening, I used to inject myself 3 times a day relentlessly because I had to, or I was in massive spasms. And through health and well-being, through what I eat, how I sleep, how I move, how I talk, how I drink, how I don't drink alcohol, and the things that I've let go of, my health is exponentially greater, even though my organs are still in failure. So,
Can I come in there? Would you
of course
mind,
you can.
Jim?
No, darling.
The point is, and this is something I want to bring across in the Health Trust, that all the medication that we're on, all the medication companies want to do is sell it. They don't want the doctors looking for an alternative option. And the doctors are not trained in an alternative option.
They aren't.
Because when I went to see the surgeon about my knee, I said to him, I'm going to tell you now that I take arnica, I take Bostock, and I take a combination of natural things, and that's the only thing that keeps me going. Are you going to object to that? And he said no. I said, good, because I need you to know that up front, because I'm not going to stop doing those things. So this is where we come back to the lesson of the planet, what we use and how we use it. It applies to drugs as well. Unfortunately, with modern technology, this is one of the downsides of a lot of the adverts we have. Take this medication for this, take this medication for that. Now, I've got an underactive thyroid. Now, I wouldn't dream necessarily of stopping that. If I could spend time with Dr. Bob, I probably would. But I am aware that that could put me into severe depression. Yeah. So to do that on your own, even with my knowledge, is extremely dangerous.
It is, and we have to make that really clear about stopping medication, that you should do it under medical supervision, and you should do it with some support, and you should do it with your eyes wide open. And, you know, I'm not advocating just stopping your meds, not in a billion years.
But before you go and take those paracetamol, do you really need it? Do you know we can get pain by not drinking enough fluids?
Absolutely we can.
And that is one of the first things that wants to be looked at. If you've got pain, have you drunk enough that
Without a doubt. And people think that's crazy, but it really isn't. Genuinely isn't. I get terrible kidney pain. I have to flush my kidneys 3 litres at least. I have to drink consistently. If I don't, I'm in pain. They're in failure. They're only functioning at percentages really low, way below 50, way below 30. So I have to flush them. I have to, and water 100% helps.
First thing is, I mean, I've taken, because I don't get up quite so quickly now, I have having organo first. But when I was a bit more able-bodied, I'd have water and lemon first and then the organo. But that just, because of the stage I'm at now, I've changed it round a bit, so I have an organo first and then the water and the lemon. Because you are flushing your kidneys, and that's what your body needs.
Exactly.
Because
No,
we pick up things all the time, and
I don't mind at all. You
none
can
of us are ever saying give up eating some of the things you shouldn't have, but eat them with wisdom. Make sure you've got that good balance in there.
Having said that, I sent you an advent calendar, and he said to me, "I'm going to eat that on the 1st of December." And I said, "Do you really think I've sent you sugar?
Yeah.
Do you really? Do you really think I've sent poison in the post? I really haven't."
No. There's so many simple things like that that we can do to make a difference for ourselves.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
Matt, if I can support you in any way, feel free, my friend,
Absolutely.
because you're coming through a big challenge and you probably feel at times like it's all on your back. But that's the beauty of this group. We all support each other.
Hey, and let's hope that Georgia hasn't decided to go through Access to Work herself. Because if she has, I can't wait to see her.
We shouldn't be nasty, but what you laughing, well, we all know that one.
Absolutely.
I was going to say something else, and now I really am going to shut up and get some clothes on. Waiting and not getting agitated once I'd agreed to have help in the home was the best thing I did.
Well, look at now.
Paul does things without me asking him to, and he goes and finds things to do. And you and I know, working with so many people, when they work with you, you have to constantly keep telling them, "Can you do this for me? Can you do that?" He doesn't.
Same as Charles. I never thought about having a boy. I'll be honest, I was sexist. I thought that women did the caring.
I wasn't sure I felt comfortable about it, to be honest.
No.
I wasn't.
No, when Charles turned up, I'm like, oh no, it's a boy. And he's just come back. I forgot our James. What am I like?
Yeah, I was just going to remind you of
How
that.
shocking is that?
We'll have to put her on your naughty step, James.
Yeah.
I'm going to be quiet and let you speak.
But I bet he needs to go somewhere.
It's perfectly fine. My boss is in the shop and he was in early, but I've just nipped in and was like, all right, okay, I need to do this. I'm only running an hour late, maybe. But that's perfectly fine because I've really enjoyed, apart from when I lost signal when I was walking, I've really enjoyed listening to everyone this morning. It's had some fabulous shares. And I was inspired by Tony, but I've got to listen to replays because the speaker on this phone isn't the greatest. So that means I've got to transfer this app over onto something a bit louder.
Won't be long, will it?
No, I'll need to do something. This phone is getting close to being brown bread, so I've nursed it for that long. But I'll get that right. But I thought, yeah, what do I do? What do I do? When my inside voice says this has to stop, I tell someone who cares enough to listen. The clanking of bottles, the hissing of gas continues as nothing has happened. What do I do? When we are all stressed out and short of money and no one to turn to, outside these brick walls, no one has a clue. What do I do? When we do 12-hour shifts they got us to do, not even time to eat or go to the loo. They try to break our spirits one by one, but I won't give up until the day we have won. What do I do? When I see my friends in trouble, can't leave it alone. Someone has to burst the big-headed bubble. No matter if it's right or it is wrong, this is something I have to do. My conscience pushes me on and through. I'm going to share my story once I've won. Show the whole world it can be done. Thank you, everybody here on Clubhouse, for listening this morning. I've really enjoyed this room, but seriously, I must put my union membership card back in my journal and tootle off to the cycle shop because we've loads of beautiful bikes to fix today because it's car boot sale and there's a lot of stuff that should really be in a skip that people are trying to sell. There is a lot of bikes that may need surgery this morning when some of it should be surgery with a gas axe and a crushing thing. But we will try to keep people safely on the road this morning. I appreciate everybody in the room, and I'm going to tootle off now, but I'm going to listen to the replays again this evening, because I love on a Saturday evening just doing a full replay of your Saturday morning, MJ. It's such a powerful room to be in to listen to. So have a beautiful day, everyone, and thanks for all your input this morning. Everyone who's mentioned me, I'm so humble with all what you said about that injury and everything, and moving forward, I'm really got great gratitude for you all. And that's me done. I'm going to put the kettle on and get me a cup of coffee before I go, or else I get a bit too regal and royal and I'll turn all blue blushing. But anyway, that's enough of that, and I'll see you soon.
Oh, James, your poetry reading has it's gone on so leaps and bounds. You're careering down the motorway, and it's unbelievable to see the difference. And I love hearing it said with gusto and with the energy in which it was written, because you've got over the awkward, and I'm really grateful for that. You are an absolute king, let alone a royal king who's going to go and drink his coffee. By the way, I'm desperate for another. I've had a hot chocolate and a royal this morning. I'm going to go and have a mashup because Matthew knows. I'm calling him Matthew because he's a naughty boy. Matthew knows that it's really quite naughty to tell me to put king and royal and black organo together because it's just so banging. But I'm going to do that before I start coaching at 10 o'clock. And last but not least, I want to say thank you to everyone that's here. Please do donate and share the Entrepreneurs Club up there. And I want to say, Faraz, good morning, and how beautiful of you to remain so patient. Hello, are you there?
Yes, I am. Hello, MJ.
Hello.
I think it wasn't hard to remain patient. I mean, the conversation was lovely, and I was using my power of listening, I guess.
Good morning.
Yeah. Good afternoon.
Oh, good
From my
afternoon.
side.
Where are you?
Yes. I am from India.
And how is it in India today?
I don't know. I haven't left my house. I was just dealing with some plumbers, some carpenters, a painter, and 2 electricians.
You're doing your house up?
Yeah, doing that.
Oh, good. Is it going to be beautiful? Are you excited?
Oh yes, it is. It has already started becoming beautiful. Well, actually, my mother is more excited than I am. I am just doing what she wanted to.
Your mum's excited, and you're grateful she's excited.
I'm grateful she's excited. I'm enjoying the process. I'm loving the way it looks.
How kind you are.
So, yes.
What a lovely thing to do with your mum.
Yeah, absolutely. Earlier when I came into the room, also James, yeah. What do I do? Hey, that was lovely, buddy. Yeah, and you're right. That I could hear the gusto. I haven't heard you before, James, but as MJ said, I heard that, and yeah, that was lovely hearing you. Also, when I came in, you mentioned Cardiff Met, MJ.
I did.
By any chance, were you talking about Cardiff Metropolitan University?
It certainly was. It's where I am training to be a social worker. I've nearly finished. Why?
Oh, okay. By any chance, is it the same university that was called University of Wales Institute Cardiff?
Yes.
Before. Yeah, both my masters are from that university.
That's unbelievable. What's your master's in?
Oh, one of them is an MSc in marketing, and the other one is an MBA in finance. Although I did study those in London, but I went there for my convocation. So it was an associate college of Cardiff, UVic at that time. That's what it was called, University of Wales Institute Cardiff.
But you're back in India now.
Yes, I am.
Do you come to England? Do you come to Wales? Do you come back to Wales to visit?
I would do that someday. I was there for 8 years.
Wow.
I was
small world.
Yeah, small world. Also, you mentioned kidney and flushing the toxins out. I couldn't help but resonate. I have kidney stones.
They're painful. They're painful. I'd rather have a baby than have kidney stones. I would. I'd rather give birth. I'd rather birth a whole human than have kidney stones. I've had both. Believe me, I've birthed 3 humans, and I'd rather do that 3 times.
Well, I am in no position to compare that, but I can tell you it is very painful. And so, my mother, she, one of her kidney was not very well supplied, so we had to put in a stent in one of the artery that goes into the kidney. And so renal stenting, as it's called. And my sister, she wasn't aware that there is something like that. So she's like, no, it only happens, when your heart is blocked. so, so I'm so glad that we got that before it could cause, any other
Failure.
complications.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But sometimes it is the way things are.
It
as
is. I
Mark was
believe
sharing
that.
earlier.
I believe that we're given these gifts actually as an opportunity to overcome our fear and to gain our learning. And in fact, we're never put out. The only reason I'm at university doing social work this time, and I'm pretty much like that PhD professor that Andrew was talking about, in that I just collect degrees for a giggle. I went back to university as a social worker because the disability provision is so dire that somebody with disabilities has to make a stand, metaphorically, so to speak.
Oh, yes.
So, that I'm doing it out of necessity. I'm doing it out of a passion, and I'm doing it out of a desire to make things better. And I don't think there's any better reason to learn.
Absolutely. And yes, sometimes, learning for the sake of learning is also fun. And I do that. I get that. I got a degree, a certificate from University of Yale's just for that. It was in philosophy. Because I wanted to
I love it. My favorite subject.
The logic part of it. And logic was, a branch of philosophy. So I did that. Yeah. So that was lovely. I was in the UK when I did that. And some IT certifications as well, just for, as you said, shits and giggles.
Well, I would love it if you ever come to Wales. Please look me up. Because as I say, we're opening a place in Mermaid Key, which is a new bit where the Senedd is, so where the Welsh devolved government is, and I work with the Welsh government for inclusion, of course, and so I'm opening a not coffee shop. It's a consultancy place, but we're going to be selling the coffee. Just don't tell everybody. Our coffee is Ganoderma luteum infused, so I drink coffee, as James alluded to, with the reishi mushroom, which is the mushroom of everlasting life, and cordyceps and lion's mane, and honestly, I think there's nothing more beautiful than being infused with mushrooms. I'm just a girl that loves mushrooms.
Absolutely. Also,
Yes.
I think it was Alexia. I'm just exercising my listening right now, so just regurgitating a bit. Just bear with me, please.
I'm bearing
Alexia,
with you for us.
Thank you, MJ. I appreciate that. Alexia mentioned, you mentioned having an underactive thyroid, and so do I. And someone mentioned depression, and I was prescribed sertraline by NHS.
That's what I was on for 30 years.
Yeah, I took it for 6 months, and then I stopped cold turkey, and I informed the doctor about it. I should not have done that. But it happened in 2010, and before I could reach 2011, I was like, no, that's not the problem with me. And then I went back to my GP, and he tested me for other things, and voila, turned out I had hypothyroidism that was causing the depression.
There you go. Exactly.
So they should have tested me for something like that, maybe to begin with, instead of prescribing me sertraline. But then again, depression had already taken its roots. So then I still said that I will not take the medication, and I will go to a therapist, turn out one begin for, So then I consider that a part of my education as well. I chose to go there and learn from them. And they were all based in London. They were really good. There was Colin, there was Susan, there was Mazika Bo, there was Kiran. They were wonderful people to work with.
Indeed, I think it's powerful.
It is very powerful, MJ, and the insights. Are you drawing something?
I am. I am. I'm so sorry to interrupt.
I could hear you sketch away. I could hear you sketch away, so powerful. And I'm like, okay, she's not using her power of listening very well.
Well, actually, I am, because I have attention deficit hyperactivity disorder.
Oh, okay.
When I do two things, and I keep my intention, my focused intention on one thing whilst doing another, actually I listen better.
Oh, that is wonderful. I had no idea. Thanks for
Mm,
that
you're
knowledge
welcome.
and
You're
that
welcome.
insight.
Yeah, and you'll find that
Also,
many people with that condition do.
yeah.
Mm.
Oh, okay. I wasn't aware. Also, Alexia mentioned Dr. Wayne Dyer, and what a surprise! I was previously reading The Power of Intention, and now I'm listening to Change Your Thoughts and Change Your Life by Dr. Wayne Dyer.
And I'm drawing hearts
Uh,
right now.
oh, thank you.
How strange is that? I'm literally drawing hearts.
Oh, that is a wonderful thing. And Matt, Matt asked, you asked a very pertinent question, like when can we stop the medication? Um, when I was diagnosed with hypothyroidism, that's the first thing doctor told me. Unfortunately, much later on in my life, I discovered that it could have been avoided. It's just that when your body gets used to exogenous hormone, those hormones, your factory tends to become defunct. So yeah, the butterfly-shaped gland in my throat, it's highly interactive at this point. I even wonder if it's working at all. So I am dependent on that. But I asked the same question when it came to my mother. So my mother, she had a heart attack this January, and it was a massive heart attack. Five of her, vessels were blocked, and so we were told that we need to get a bypass surgery done. And my mother completely delegated that decision to me, and she was like, what did we send you to school for? By the way, I'm like the first generation from my family to go to school. I belong to a family of landlords, and yeah, schooling was optional. Let's just say that, because there is this old adage in India, like you study to get a job, and you don't need a job, so why would you study for? Yes, I'm the first generation in my family, and also the first person in my extended family, even someone who knows how to cook, because cooking is something for women only.
I love
Um,
cooking, and I love men that cook.
but thank you for loving me.
You are welcome.
Yeah, but it is considered a big taboo, and when I challenged that, I had to face some stuff, but water under the bridge, I guess. Um, Yeah, so Matt, you asked that question and I asked that question, and now I can't stop taking that hypothyroidism medication, and my mother is on that heart medication, those blood thinners and whatnot, and those things that reduces your bad cholesterol. And but there was something that I asked, and even the doctors, at least the junior doctor, she didn't know. The senior surgeon later on agreed with me. We had a discussion about it. So the doctor said to me that we might need to change your mother's heart's valve. And so they suggested that, they put in the one with animal tissue. So they have two valves. One is mechanical valve, and the other one is with an animal tissue. Of course, animal tissue valve is expensive, and we were at a private hospital. So yeah, sometimes things can get a bit funny in those private settings. And she told me that, yeah, we will put the animal in, and why don't you submit, you need to, what do you call it? Yeah, put the money in. You need to pay before we do that, because we will only decide that while your mother is on the table in the, operation theater. And I was like, okay. And then, but I was also reading somewhere, and I decided that, okay, I'll do some research myself. And I was reading, uh, mm, I think it was John Hopkins' website, and they are some of the best doctors on the planet. So I looked at their website, and according to them, and according to all the symptoms, my mother should not be, she should not have been getting that mechanical valve, but not the animal valve, but the mechanical valve. And I asked the doctor about it, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I think that is a good idea." And then he looked at his team doctor, the junior one. He gave him that eye, and and I knew something was up. So yeah, sometimes asking right questions, as you very well pointed out, Matt, it can help you, because otherwise you're not getting anywhere. But yes, it is also a good idea to listen to the experts. Of course, I couldn't have done that surgery myself.
No.
Okay, that was a bit of a rant. Thank
No,
you,
it
everyone,
wasn't.
for giving me the chance, MJ.
It wasn't a bit of a
Wow.
rant. It was beautiful, and it's beautiful that you're here. I'm honoured to have you here.
Thank you.
It's
Thank you,
I'm grateful you're here, and I couldn't have wished to wait for a greater ending to this room. It's great that you've been here, and we're here every Saturday. Faraz, please come back. We would love to have you. It's always great to have a great mind and a great heart, and I believe that you carry both of those. I love hearing the fact that you're smashing down barriers and making choices for yourself about who you are, and not necessarily what society tells you to be, because it's just a story we told ourselves, and it's a story that they tell us. And this week, in one of my days of the 55 Christmas jumpers, I've been saying that actually when we choose our own narrative, then we can own it, we can be it, and then we can grow from it. And I think that there's stories we tell ourselves, there's stories that people tell us, and then there's stories that we keep repeating because they told us to. And I think that, as Socrates said, if you want to know yourself, then go inside, because actually we know what we know in our heart. And as you said, Wayne Dyer speaks very truthfully about those things. When we resonate from a place of truth and authenticity, when we are who we are and we show up to be who we are and for no other reason, then I think magic happens. And everyone on this stage today has been and remains magic. And I'm grateful to you all. It's lovely to meet new friends and be with old friends. Not saying anything Alexia except we're a bit old. And there's people in there, everything's here in every decade that there is. We are just better together. It's a foregone conclusion that inclusion is the only way, because unless we accept our hearts and our minds as who we are and where we are, then I'm afraid that we can't move forward in our quest to become ourselves. So I'm going to go now because I'm coaching in 7 minutes and I really need the loo before I do. Please do get in touch if you do want to on the back channel. I am around, and always great to collaborate. And for us, the next time you decide to come to Wales, you should definitely come over to Mermaid Key and find MJ's, because we will welcome you with a cup of coffee like you've never had. I want to say thank you to you all. And for us, actually, for you and your mum, if you want some coffee and you'd like me to send you some samples, just shout me in the back channel, give me your address, and I'll pop some in the post. I'd love you to try it, because honestly, 30 days on that coffee and you, or tea, or chocolate, as we've alluded to, and or even just the capsules, they're natural, they are just mushrooms. They're not magic mushrooms, but they are magical. And if you'd like some, give us a shout, because I'd love to share it with you and your mum, and with the whole of your family. You are really just amazing. I'm going to end my stream here online. So goodbye to everybody on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on Twitch. Have an amazing, amazing day. And please do hit the GoFundMe at the bottom, and let's make that first entrepreneur. Goodbye.